And new data out from LinkedIn shows that the US job market may have hit rock bottom in mid April, but does that mean things are improving? Joining me now is Karen Kimbrough, Chief Economist at LinkedIn. Karen, thank you so much for joining me here today. What are some of the main findings of your survey?
Sure. So, what we're seeing globally is that since the shutdown, we had these massive pileup of layoffs. We've had these really large retrenchments in hiring, and that lasted in March and April. Now we're into May, and what we're seeing is that the largely the job hiring pullback that we saw, that was essentially a free fall, has started to pause. We're starting to see things stabilize a little bit and level out. So we're thinking maybe we're at a moment where things aren't going to get any worse. I won't say things are getting better yet, though. We still have a long way to go.
To that point, let's compare this month's or last month's stats to last year. Hiring was up from the previous year before the pandemic, and then in April plunged to 38% less compared to where we were in April of last year. So, do you think we're going to get back to those pre pandemic numbers anytime soon? I know you said it's kind of hard to tell, but what is your outlook so far?
I think this recovery, when it does get started, is going to be fitful and slow. Unfortunately, I think there are occasionally going to be bright spots, but there are risks on the horizon. One of the biggest risks is that we have a second wave of contagion that invites another a round of shutdowns and closures, which would really harm the economy. Another risk is that we just don't get a vaccine for quite some time, and that would just mean a very prolonged period of what we're calling the new normal.
Yeah, and it seems that the mix of the types of jobs that can go people workers who can go back to work is really shifting at this point. According to your data, are there certain trends as to what kinds of jobs are coming back more quickly than other jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing a real mix in the kinds of jobs that are coming back. Anything that's kind of related to entertainment or is sort of discretionary has been coming back much slower. Obviously, anything related to frontline workers, essential services and goods, even consumer goods, groceries and paper products, all of that has come back more quickly. There's just a continued demand for that. But anything that's sort of a nice to have and not a need to have is coming back much more slowly, especially things around entertainment, eating out, things like that.
Yeah, and speaking of the jobs that we're kind of seeing a growth in, a lot of the recovery we're seeing now is in not so high paying sectors like food delivery, Amazon warehouse workers, Walmart hiring workers as well. A lot of these jobs, it seems, might be temporary because of this increased demand we're seeing, especially in online orders. What does this mean for those workers? Do you think there will be some permanence in the hiring that we've seen happen, especially in delivery and retail?
I think what's going to happen is we're going to have a new normal. Nobody knows exactly what it's going to look like. Some of the jobs that have been created in the last few months may indeed prove to be temporary. What's really going to need to happen is for businesses to set a strategy that allows them to identify, what is a safe working environment, what is a new supply chain that's sustainable, and how do they interact with the public in what we're calling the new normal. And that's going to mean different types of jobs. So I do think new jobs are going to come on board. The current jobs that have been created, I think, are helping us through the transition. But the future, 1, 2 years out from now, is going to look very different. And I think a lot of the jobs are going to involve more remote work. They could easily involve a lot more digital skills. So these are things that we're looking out for.
Yeah, pre-pandemic in the tight labor market, we were seeing companies offer more benefits. Wages were finally increasing. Where do you see wages trending as the country slowly recovers, and how would you kind of summarize that in different categories?
The the picture on wages is really going to shift now. I mean, economics is always a matter of supply and demand, and suddenly the mix has shifted with this pandemic. There's a lot more supply of labor, a lot more meaning people looking for jobs than there were before. So that is going to keep some downward pressure on wages. It's hard to say that we're going to have even something remotely like what we've seen in the past year or so in terms of wage growth, and even that wasn't that strong, to be honest with you.
Yeah, of course, a lot of people get recruitment messages on LinkedIn. How do you think kind of the recruitment process is going to change, whether it's now going to go even more digital than it has been in the past?
Well, we're definitely seeing that the recruitment process is changing. People are much more open to trying online approaches to recruiting. They're definitely more open to considering remote work or job sharing. And I think that everybody is sort of trying out an alternative way of work, not knowing what it will look like a year or two from now. Will we all be back in the office, or are we going to be staggered and a mix of us going in and out at different paces? So I think the recruitment process will come back. I do think jobs will come. They just may be different jobs than what we saw before. And I think that that recruitment process is going to be a lot more online, a lot more using platforms like LinkedIn to try to find the right talent.
Karen, thank you so much for your time and insight today. That's Karen Kimbrough, Chief Economist at LinkedIn.